सोचो दर्द हमारा कभी सुना न जाएगा। अब न्यायालय खुद चलकर चौपालों तक आएगा। लाचारों को न्याय मिलेगा, दुखियारों को न्याय मिलेगा, कमजोरों को न्याय मिलेगा, मजलूमों को न्याय मिलेगा। गरीब और कमजोरों को मुफ्त एवं सक्षम कानूनी सहायता के लिए प्रतिबद्ध विधिक सेवा प्राधिकरण नालसा, न्याय सबके लिए।
Kids singing the welcome song for them. Advocate Meghna Naik, Advocate Nuri Sawant, Advocate Nandini Kedilaya, Advocate Shreya Phadde, Advocate Pranali Naik.
सजाए
Thank you. Dance is the hidden language of soul. We now have a little young girls performing a welcome dance for you. Dance is performed by Vaishnavi Joshi, Swara Mahal, Aral Morje, Manasi Shirolkar, Anisha Gowde.
बस
that was a wonderful performance. I think they all deserve a big hand. Thank you. On this occasion, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to the President of Goa High Court Bar Association, Sri Koil Pereira sir, Madam Vijaya Ambre, Member Secretary of Goa State Legal Services, and Advocate Chokim Kudino, President of Pension Lawyers Forum, for organizing this wonderful program on the occasion of the Women's Day and make all sisters at the bar feel so special. I now request Advocate Caroline Colasso to formally welcome the gathering.
On behalf of the Goa High Court Bar Association, the Pension Lawyers Forum, and the Goa State Legal Services Authority, it is my privilege and honor to welcome on this occasion of International Women's Day the Honorable Minister for Law and Judiciary, Sri Alesh Sikwe, the Honorable Sri Justice A.J. Galote, Honorable Chief Justice Valmiki Menezes, and our trailblazers and inspiration to women in Goa, Ma'am Libya Robo Sardesai, Dr. Nandita D'Souza, Dr. Pooja Kavadekar, and Swati Kamath. Even though International Women's Day is being celebrated since 2011, it is always important to celebrate this day because this is the day when we highlight and reiterate the importance of gender equality and women's empowerment. A day when we take time to honor the achievement of women and recognize their contribution to society, and more importantly, where we look back to leap forward, work out a roadmap for future actions. While women have made extraordinary strides in every sphere, storming hitherto male bastions, shattering glass ceilings, there is still so much more that is yet to be achieved. Several forms of violence against women, horrific murders, dowry deaths, domestic violence, rape, human trafficking is a sad reality of our society today. The recent rape of a Spanish biker in Dumka, Bihar, just 10 years after Nirbhaya, who was raped in a public bus in Delhi and shook the conscience of India, has once again brought center stage this issue of safety of women. Mahatma Gandhi said, the day women can walk freely on the roads at night, that is the day we can say that India has truly achieved independence. The story of women's struggles for equality belongs to no single individual or organization, but whatever we have achieved today is the collective work of both men and women who strongly believed in women's rights and that women's rights are human rights. The judiciary has played a huge role in addressing and upholding women's rights and dignity. Recently, whether in holding the practice of triple talaq as unconstitutional, whether they've given such good directions for conducting trials in rape, cases of rape and child abuse, and even stepping in and formulating guidelines for sexual harassment when there was no act in place, and which led to the formation of the Sexual Harassment of Women at the Workplace Act much later on. The legislature also has played a big role and stepped in to bring changes in the law in keeping with the times. When there was no civil law to address issues of domestic violence and safety of women in the homes, in 2005, the Domestic Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act was brought about. Issues of stalking, disrobing, acid throwing, which was brought before the judiciary by an acid attack victim. All these were new laws brought into the IPC with the changing times. Every action is a slow chipping away at the vestiges of patriarchy, a little closer to our dream of total women's emancipation. While we listen today to the inspiring and powerful trailblazers in our field, we dare to dream of a society where women are valued, respected, and empowered to participate fully and meaningfully in all spheres of life. So, a warm welcome once again to all of you, all my senior colleagues and colleagues in the audience. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Goa, actually an experience. I request Advocate Vidhati Shetye to present a grim welcome. I request Advocate Divya Naik to present a floral welcome to our guest, Advocate Divya Lobo Sardesai. Madam. I request Advocate Meghna to present a floral welcome to Advocate Swati Kamadwa. Thank you. Looking at these flowers, a phrase that comes to my mind for women. जंगली फूलों की तरह आपको खुद को उन सभी जगहों पर बढ़ने देना है जहां लोगों ने सोचा था कि आप कभी नहीं बढ़ पाओगे. Now, we have a keynote speaker with us today, and I request Advocate Shambhavi Rao to introduce the keynote speaker.
Good evening, everyone. It's my absolute pleasure keynote speaker, Dr. Nandita D'Souza. Dr. Nandita is a developmental and behavioral pediatrician and an eternal child at heart. She has been working exclusively for She worked as a senior pediatrician at Hospicio Hospital for 2 years and then quit her government service to start her own practice devoted to developmental and behavioral aspects of child health. Since 2005, Dr. Nandita has been the director of Setu Center for Child Development and Family Guidance. It's a charitable trust working in the field of child mental health and disability. We believe that her in-depth knowledge, understanding and experience with issues faced by women, especially in the aspects of mental health, would sensitize all of us here today in combating the stigma, enhancing prevention and ensuring early detection of issues related to mental health. Ma'am, it's absolutely my honor to have you with us.
Which is true actually. I was talking to one of my patients. She said, "Tu rao me kushin park kora na yulu because I think talk as much as you want." So I said, "Really sorry, next time I do." So he said, "Okay, I'm other tuka sokta. This time I let you go. Pun now aza tu kenna sudarchina." I said, "What?" I said, "Kida bolla tune?" Said, "Na tu kenna sudarchina." I said, "No, sudartile." So like that, used some reverse psychology, and I did become much better with that. So I'm always grateful for the times when I'm reminded to live as per our laws and our constitution. So I'm going to be talking today about the stresses that women, how to balance stresses between work and home. And I'm reminded of a story that I heard. So there was this, very well-known researcher, a professor of psychiatry, and he had done a lot of research studies looking at women's depression and what are the causes. So he was presenting his findings, and he said, in a nutshell, when women are depressed, they spend a lot of time in bed, they drive very fast, and they eat a lot of chocolate. So one of the ladies in the audience raised her hand and said, "Sir, that's my idea of a perfect day." So I'm going to be talking a little bit about this, not so much from like a theoretical point of view, though I will talk a little bit. I'm a brain nerd, so I will talk a little bit about science, but more from just the personal things that women can do to balance their stress. The next step, please. Right, so when we're children, young girls, we really know how to have fun, right? There's this famous song, "Girls Just Want to Have Fun," and I think we're very good at that. So from there, I'm going to say we have to now sing, "Women, you've got to have fun," because something along the way we lose that sense of joy and that childlike, commitment to fun, and become very serious and think that that's what adults are supposed to do. So, the next slide, please. So, I just want to ask a general question. How many of you do not face stress? Can you just have a show of hands? How many of you do not face stress? No? Okay. That's what I thought. So we all know, the next slide please. So stress is a very, very kind of important or inescapable, let me say, part of life. And what happens, so I will be subjected to a few personal photographs because I'm the only one who kind of displays more silly photographs. So so some of us react like this, like I do when we face stress. The next slide please. So why do we do this? Why do we get overwhelmed? It's because stress is perceived as a threat. And in our evolution, and this is genetically programmed, we are programmed to do this. We can't change it because that's what has helped us to survive and thrive. So when we perceive a threat, it may be real, it may be imagined. So for example, if I see a rope on the road and I, almost step on it and I think it's a snake, I'll have the same response, right? So it's not a snake at all, but it still induces the stress response. So what is the stress response? It's actually to protect me. And, our whole life, the way we have evolved, is one, is to stay alive, and two, is to make more babies. And that's how the human race has progressed. So what happens to protect me? Automatically, there are these 4 F responses. The fight response, flight, the freeze, and the fawn, which has been kind of spoken about more recently. So fight is if that threat is smaller than me, or I feel I'm stronger than them, I will fight, right? Again, to protect myself. If it's bigger than me, I will run away. So that's flight. Sometimes I'm just stuck in the place. I don't know what to do, and I stay very quiet, I stay frozen, and the threat passes. And fawn, very often we see this in people who have had very abusive childhoods, and it was their way to survive, where they would agree with the aggressor. And just though they didn't want to do it, they felt that this is the best way to get through the situation. So we see it in young children when they are in a violent situation at home, maybe they kind of will be very sweet and pleasing, okay, and that's the way they get over their stress. And it also explains why many women in abusive relationships will not move out or want to leave because of this. It's a protective response which they're still using, though it is causing more threat to them. So this is how our brain works. Now, why does this happen? The next slide, please. This is because of the stress hormones, which are the cortisol, okay, and noradrenaline. And these all of us have, and this causes one of those 4 stress responses, and it acts right through our bodies. So for example, the next slide, please. From our brain, these are the stress responses which are released from the adrenal glands, just these small glands just above the kidneys. It affects our heart, so it makes it beat faster, so we get more blood into the muscles, so that if we need to run, we can do that, we get more energy. It acts on our liver, so glucose is released, so there's energy to the muscles. Then it acts on our lungs, which makes us breathe faster, so that again we get more oxygen. It acts on our muscles, so our muscles become tight and taut. On our intestines, which actually stop digesting, so that they don't need blood, so blood is diverted to our lungs and to our liver and to our muscles. And our sweat glands, which is why we sweat. So you can see the wide impact that stress has on multiple organs in the body. I don't know how many of you played this game when you all were young. We used to do it. It was like a ghost game, right? So one person would be the ghost, and we'd make the room really dark, and then everyone would hide, and the person who was the ghost would come in and say, like, heart, liver, kidney, I'm coming for you. Right? Those are the words. But I have the next. And you'll see it's getting very excited. Okay, our frontal lobe tells us, okay, now calm down. And when we are too robotic and not really making decisions which are caring, the limbic system tells us, you have to take care of others also. So it works both ways. So the next slide. So if you can draw a line, it's like the top floor and the ground floor. The next one, please. So the ground floor, this is putting it very, very crudely or simply, but it's important to understand. The ground floor is our feeling brain, right? And the top floor, the next one please, is our thinking brain. And the two have to work together. You have to have a good stairs or ladder between the ground floor and the top floor. But what happens when there's a noisy ground floor? So your brain has sensed a threat, cortisol and noradrenaline are released, and you have a very noisy ground floor which is either fighting or fleeing or getting overwhelmed, right? The next slide. What happens is that there is like an emotional hijacking of your first floor. You can't do work in your first floor when your ground floor is very noisy. But very often, what do? When we are fighting, we are saying a lot of things, we are doing a lot of things, so we are still acting as if from our first floor, but actually it's the ground floor which has taken control. So that awareness is important for us because, as I said, when we are hijacked, emotionally hijacked, not that emotions are bad, but when we get overwhelmed because of our protective stress response, we can then say or do things which so-called lose control and which we later regret or which get us into trouble. The next one, please. So stress is inescapable, but our response to it definitely is in our control. And that's what I'll be talking about now. The next one, please. So this part of our brain, behind the forehead, the frontal lobe, or called the prefrontal cortex, this is actually the boss of our brain. And just like a boss in an office, takes care of all the planning and working towards your targets, time management, your space management, impulse control, paying attention to what's important. That's what this boss does, the prefrontal cortex. So now the prefrontal cortex is actually the most newest part of our brain. It's the part of the neocortex. So it is a work in progress till about 25 years. And for many of us, people who have ADHD or people who have other mental health issues, it takes even more time to fully develop. And that's why you see many teenagers do things which are, you wonder what on earth were you thinking? Actually, they weren't, because again, their frontal lobes are still under construction, and it is the feeling, the limbic system, which is actually very often making the decisions. So how do we take care of this boss of our brain? It's important, the next slide is, it's important that we make it shine. So I've used this mnemonic, so sleep. They say 7 plus, I myself can't sleep for 7 hours, so I put 6 over there, because 6 is about as much as I need. After 6 I wake up feeling fresh. So 6 plus hours at least to being happy, being relaxed. Next one please. And happy time, whatever makes you feel relaxed. Avoid screens and substances, because these have their own kind of, actually watching a screen sometimes it gives us pleasure if you're watching whatever stand-up comedy or something on nature or baking, but very often we are watching news or something which is also making us feel bad. I may feel, oh my goodness, look at her home, it's so beautiful, and look at the state my home is such a mess. Or that person's husband always takes them for holidays abroad. Look at my husband, like he won't even take me to Wada Beach. So this, when we are watching screens, we are actually getting stressed because we are comparing ourselves. So happy time can be a hobby, can be spending time in nature, whatever floats your boat. If it's outdoors, it's much better. The third is interaction. Humans are social beings, and what we call vitamin C, the C of connection, is very, very important. And that is what protects us from stress. That's very often why women, we have our girlfriends, because they're actually our kind of stress decreasing mechanism. So interaction, and pets are great, just cuddling your pet dog or cat also will reduce your stress. The next is nutrition. Food is very important, and real food, so not processed food. And there's a little trick. How do you know if it's too processed? Because there are many delicious things which are processed. Look at the back of the packet. If it's more than 5 ingredients, try not to buy it because it's probably highly processed. If it's less than 5, okay, it's only that bad for you. And exercise. Movement releases a lot of what we call happy hormones, which help us to stay calm. And that's why runners, you have the runner's high because of endorphins, and that's really a de-stress mechanism. So taking care of the boss of your brain is something all of us could do. The next one, please. I'm going to talk about 2 more things. One is self-care, looking after ourselves. And very often, we don't look after ourselves. One is, especially moms say, oh, I don't have time. Where is the time to look after myself? Right after I finished my job, or I looked after the family and done the cooking and paid all the bills and so on. There's absolutely no time for myself. But self-care, if you don't care for yourself, it comes at a huge cost, and we've already seen all the organs that are affected with stress. The next one, please. So how do you look after yourself? You don't have to go for 1 hour of yoga or even a simple thing like putting on music in the car when you're driving to work, or putting on a perfume which you really love the aroma of. These are simple ways through our sensory system to calm. So it could be physical, like sleeping. Sleep is a very good mechanism and one of the biggest epidemics of our times, lack of sleep. Then we can look after the next one, look after our emotional health, and we've always seen some of these things like our friendships, playing, especially with children, loving yourself. The third is your psychological health, so growing your mind, learning more. I often go for a walk in the evening, and what I do is I listen to podcasts because, first of all, I can focus much better on listening rather than reading. I don't have time to sit, and I'm always jumping up and down, but when I'm walking and listening, I can listen, I can understand and focus much better, and it gives me a great pleasure to learn more about anything. And of course, our spiritual health, being with nature, having a greater purpose in life, and all kinds of spiritual practices like meditation, prayer, or you may do chanting, and so on. So self-care is the biggest stress buster. And again, I always said I'm very strict about this in my work. Every parent, mother, father, grandparent, whoever comes to me, I say, what are you doing to look after yourself? And they say, oh, what? How can we look after ourselves? We have children with special needs. And then I tell them, remember what they tell you on the plane? That if the cabin pressure falls and the oxygen masks come down, put on your oxygen mask first. The next slide, please. So yes, so first your oxygen mask should be on, and the next one, please. Do not wait to be broken in order to take a break. The next one, please. Okay, the second and last thing I can talk about is self-compassion. And this has come out now recently as a very, very important way to de-stress. In fact, they're called the third wave of psychotherapies. And, self-compassion is being kind to yourself. Right? And there are 3 components of this. The next slide, please. The first, we have to notice our feelings, right? Because if you want to be compassionate, you have to notice that someone is suffering. So this is our own imperfection, our own suffering, our own pain, to notice it. And we're not trained to do this. Very often we are told, oh, you're feeling upset, forget it. Don't feel upset. Don't be unhappy. You have everything. Why are you unhappy? You have money. You have a nice job. You have children. Like, why are you unhappy? But it's like there's so much of air. Why do you have asthma? Right? So it's not a good thing to ask of people, and being aware, first noticing is very important. And for that we do mindful awareness. Just mindfulness doesn't mean you sit in lotus position and take deep breaths. It could be wherever you are, but you're just aware. You notice that you're feeling embarrassed or nervous or sad or angry, whatever it is. The next is to be kind to yourself, and this is a non-judgmental compassion. Now, I know all of you have to make judgments, and you sometimes, very often, have to, depending on the law, you have to act and make decisions, and therefore you should not be led away by compassion or any kind of feelings towards whoever's in front of you, right? It should be dispassionate, but I'm talking about yourself. Treat yourself kindly, because that actually helps one to deal with stress and to without judgment that this is bad or this is good. And very often we say, talk to yourself like you would talk to a friend. You would say these mean things to your friend, right? What is this? You messed up. You always do this. You're so horrible. Why can't you control yourself? You won't say this to a good friend of yours. So why are we saying it to ourselves? And very often we are the worst self-critics. Forget our mothers-in-law. We are worse than them sometimes when we are talking to ourselves in our own heads. So third is recognize our common humanity. That all of us are frail. Human beings go through tough times. That's a part of life. And we are going to mess up, right? Life is messy at times, and it's okay. So whether it's an imperfection, or it is a suffering, or it is something deeply painful from our present or from our past, being able to notice it like a witness, so you're not judging. It's like they say you're standing in the balcony and you're watching the parade of your experience or parade of your feelings go by. Right? You're not in it, you're away from it, but it is also you're connected to it. So you're not feeling dragged into it, and finally knowing that you are not alone. I think at least it's great for all of us to know this. And for the population I work with, where it's parents of kids who are going through some struggle or the other, maybe a disability, it may be some emotional distress, very often they feel embarrassed, stigmatized, they don't want anybody to know. And it's so hard when you're isolated, when you feel no one else should know. So you have to put up this, kind of false air that everything is fine, everything's normal, and it comes at a huge cost to our health. So telling parents and putting parents in touch with each other so that they know they are not alone and there's always help available definitely helps. So at Setu, we have what we call the strengths-based approach. Whatever the situation, people come to us in deep distress, feeling hopeless, devastated, overwhelmed, they just don't know what to do. And when they come, the first thing we say, boast about your child. And sometimes they what? So, yeah, tell me about your child, because everyone has such wonderful qualities. So, it turns everything topsy-turvy, and so they think, oh, my child's very affectionate, they're very musical, they're full of energy, they love to cycle, they're very good at making craft objects. There's always something. So when we start with strengths, next slide please, we are basically the experts of our own lives. And no one else knows your life how you know your life. But very often we think that they come to me thinking, oh, Dr. Nandita is going to solve my problem. I say, no, I can't. I don't know your child. I don't know you. But I know that you have strengths. I know that you have resources. And I'm totally convinced about this, that you are the expert of your own life. Yes, right now you feel overwhelmed. Let's take all the puzzles, all the things that are there. Let's put them together and try and make sense of it, and then see if anything needs to be changed. So it's really the lived experience of that child and family, and for yourselves, each of you, which is a gold mine through which we can get answers to the struggles or puzzles that we face in order to go forward. Self-awareness, as I said, once we are aware, in a safe space, so it's not like you're going to be judged. Nobody's going to say you're a bad person. Yes, being vulnerable takes a lot of courage, and this is a safe space. with acceptance and, putting your hand over heart and saying, yes, I went through this. Yes, I goofed up. Or yes, I should not have beaten my child when they were young. But that's okay. You did the best that you possibly could. Going forward, how can we use that to do better? The next slide, please. When we look for strengths in ourselves, then we start looking for strengths in others. So, for example, in our families, right? And for me, when I work with women, it's like strengths in themselves, and then if they are married, looking for strengths in their spouse, because quite often it's, oh, he doesn't do anything or she doesn't do anything, she's only watching TV, and that's not true. In mothers-in-law, they're very powerful people and they're wonderful people, they're full of resources. So getting the families together, quite often the mother will say, no, don't bother talking to my husband, he doesn't agree, he won't come. I said, you leave him to me. And actually, I have very good success with other people's husbands, not so good with my own, but it's because I really believe that they are needed. And they're doing a lot of stuff which is great, yes. So, again, focusing on strengths, our colleagues, the wider community. So, when we are coming from strengths, we actually find better solutions. Because if we are stressed, what did I say? Your thinking shuts down. But when you're calm, because you are now focusing on strengths, you are thinking, you have better ideas, and you have better solutions. So this is a thing which works beautifully for us. Finally, my take-home messages, we can go a little fast with this. The first thing is that we are going to have stress. The next one. Yeah, stress is unavoidable, but I hope I've convinced you that our response is in our control and there's lots that we can do. The second is, remember, our stress hormones, which is a protective mechanism. We're not bad people or we haven't evolved enough, not at all. Our stress hormones will be released to protect us. And we are the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Look after the boss of our brain and make it shine through sleep, happy times, interactions, good nutrition and exercise. Self-care is crucial. Choose whatever floats your boat. And start small, whether it's physical, your emotional, legal eagle, than being a doctor. But yes, as I said, please take care of yourselves. And if Setu can contribute in any way, please do let us know. And thank you so much. Happy Women's Day once again.
Thank you, madam, for beautifully explaining to us the first floor and the ground floor of our brain and how is self-care and self-compassion will help us to release stress. I now request Advocate Sonali Nagwekar to introduce our next speaker for the day.
Good evening, everyone. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our special guest for today's function, Dr. Pooja Kaulekar. Dr. Pooja Kaulekar passed her SSC in higher secondary with distinction. After completing her higher secondary education in science, she joined the B.M. Khalgaonkar College of Law in the year 2000. She topped the Goa University in LLB examination by securing 2 gold medals. She joined the bar in the year 2005 and practiced as an advocate in both litigation and non-litigation field. In 2007, she was selected as civil judge and judicial magistrate first class, and in the same year, she successfully completed her LLM with human rights as a field of specialization. She again topped the Goa University in her LLM examination by securing 2 gold medals. She secured highest marks in constitutional law and bagged the Professor V.S. Mallar gold medal in the LLM examination. She was a distinction holder throughout her academic career. She is the youngest candidate to be appointed as a civil judge junior division and judicial magistrate first class in Goa, and also the youngest judge to be promoted as district judge in the state of Goa. She made presentations on behalf of state of Goa for the 3rd and 4th Supreme Court Roundtable Conference on Implementation of Juvenile Justice, Care and Protection of Children Act 2015 held in Gujarat and Indore. She has recently completed her PhD on the subject Use, Admissibility and Proof of Electronic Evidence in Investigation and Trial, a critical and empirical study with special reference to the state of Goa, and is presently posted as District Judge and Additional Sessions Judge South Goa Margam I now call upon Dr. Pooja Kaulekar, District and Additional Judge, South Goa, to address the function.
Respected Chief Guest, Honorable Minister of Law and Judiciary for the State of Goa, Shri Alexio Sikvera, my Lord Honorable Justice Shri H.E. Dharote, my Lord Honorable Shri Justice Valmiki Mazes, Dr. Nandita D'Souza, the President of the High Court Bar Association, Advocate Shri Goel Pereira, the President of the Panjim Lawyers Forum, Advocate Shri Jyoti Kuburo, the Member Secretary of the Goa State Legal Services Authority, Srimati Vijaya Amre, senior advocates, respected members of the bar, and esteemed members of the audience. A very good evening to all of you, and a very happy Women's Day. Most addresses start with an introduction to the topic and the subject, but I would start my address with my vote of thanks, because I will not get this opportunity again. I thank the High Court Bar Association and the Panjim Lawyers Forum for considering me fit for this felicitation. I am actually a product of your hard work. When I joined as a lawyer in the chamber of late Advocate Shri Mahesh Amolkar, I was his junior. But when I joined as a judge of the Goa Judiciary, you all became my seniors. I have learned from each and every one of you. Each and every argument that has been made by all of you has been enriching, and today I stand before you with whatever achievements that I have had in life. I accept this felicitation with greatest humility and responsibility that I make myself worthy of this felicitation. So thank you very, very much for finding me worthy of this felicitation. Having said that, I will come to the topic of today's day. When Madam Shambhavi called me and said that I need to speak on women empowerment, and when Sir called me and said that I need to speak about my experiences as a woman in my profession or in achieving my PhD degree, I thought to myself, what can I speak? God has been very kind to me, touch wood. I was born in a fairly well-to-do family, where, like many of us who were born in the early 80s, our birth was celebrated. Our fathers didn't feel bad that a girl was born in the house. We were given equal treatment. Our teachers treated us equally as the boys in the school. In fact, there was a positive bias in our favor. I remember when I was in school, when it came to doing the dirty work of lifting the benches and the outdoor activity, the boys were asked to do it. Girls were always, I lived in a society where girls were always protected. My principal fired the boys more. I think people who are studying with me in law college will agree. Professor Pinero was kind to us as compared to the boys in the class. Life was good. When I became a judge, PDJ, Honorable Guardian Judges, were better to the lady judges. Better in the sense that they were more protective. They were extremely respectful. What can I speak about women's day? God has been kind. But then I thought to myself, is this the reality? The answer is no. And why is this? I was reminded of some experiences that I had had or women around me have had. Some days back, I would say some years back, I met a friend of mine and I asked her about another friend of mine who was my competitor in college. So I was very competitive in college. I normally came in the first three. So I had this friend of mine who was also, either she would come first or I would come first. And about 10 years back, a WhatsApp group was formed. She was not there in the WhatsApp group. So I asked that friend of the friend, where is she? She would talk the class. And I was told that आता त्याचं लग्न झालं नाही. She couldn't manage, so now she's only at home. Story number 1. When I was preparing for this speech, I was reminded of my experience with one of my staff. So I worked as a CGM here, and back then we were operating in that Spaces building. If you her family, that is where I came to cook for a family. Her husband was a teacher who worked in Ponda. He had to report to work at 7:30. And she was under so much of mental stress. She was a bench clerk, you can imagine. In a place like Panjim, where there are 100 matters on board. And if the judge is like me, then you don't have peace. Always. This was the difficulty that she was facing. And it was not the class or the vision that was causing a problem, but the issues were much more deep-rooted. Another staff with whom I had an issue, she was my steno. Very good at her work. Throughout the day, wonderful. You gave her a judgment. Within 15-20 minutes, she could type it. 5:30 and she couldn't sit in the room. Sometimes for judges, it was not possible for us to send the witness back at 5:30 or 10 minutes, 15 minutes deposition, and we have to continue. 5:30 she would get restless. And I would always fire her. You cannot spare 5-10 minutes for the court. 5:30 means what? You stay close by, you stay at Kepe, Asoida. Because at that time she told me, Madam, I require to catch a 5:40 bus. Because my husband doesn't know to cook. So much so that he doesn't know. In company she told me, Chacha, I done gas on the parlor. And I have to feed him at 8 o'clock because he has permitted me to work. So she's nearing her retirement. She has permitted me to work on the condition that I would be back home by 7:30. That is the reason I never went. Stenos have an option of going through the regular section. They can become superintendents, registrars, CEOs. So she told me that is the reason why I never accepted a promotion, because it was not possible for me to reach home at 7 o'clock to abide by that condition of promotion. I gave you some stories. It looks like marriage is a monster. No sooner you get married, the husband troubles you. Well, that is not the case. I still have some more stories to tell. I just take 5 minutes and I will finish. Stories of me. I was talking about the lovely professional life that I have had because I have met the right people in my life. But I am a woman. I am the only child. And I belong to this very traditional Goan society where you need to get married. I did PhD after I got married because my husband, my father-in-law, they thought I should do my PhD. When I was 25, there was no PhD facility in Mini Goan Law College. When I was 25, I thought I will apply for PhD in Pune Law College. It is at that time my aunt told me, PhD Karta, look at yourself. You're thin. And then I was really thick. I was puny. You're thin. You wear glasses. Look at the state of your teeth. And you're a judge. It is so difficult for us to find a groom for you. If you do PhD, हमको तो कोई तलाटी सुधा ना हो This is her dialogue. Let me be very honest. This is what she told me. तो कोई तलाटी सुधा ना And I really thought about it, and I didn't. I got scared. I wanted to get married. I really wanted to get married. I got scared, and I didn't do PhD. This is our reality. And these are the small stories that I have started my speech with, only to ask all of you all this question. Whether we have been able to break the glass ceiling. Most of us have come from families like me. Father well-educated, mother working, everything is good. Despite of this, and even in-laws, I am blessed to have lovely in-laws. My mother-in-law never told me to cook again after she saw me cooking 2-3 times a day. So, lovely atmosphere in which we grew. Have we broken the glass ceiling? We need to ask ourselves. We have yes, or do we do it every day? Is our every day a struggle that we need to keep on breaking these glass ceilings with every challenges that we suffer? I think most women would agree with me that obstacle is a daily process. And we need to deal with this obstacle on a daily basis. When I was practicing, I knew how to ride a bike, I didn't know how to drive. And I didn't want to go to Maksa because I could only drive up to Opokero. I lived very close by. And I would park my bike there and I would take a bus from Maksa. And then Maksa Fort is quite far away. So you needed to get down at the bus stand and then take another bus and go. So I told one of my male colleagues, I said, I don't want to go to Maksa. I'll only handle all matters in Panjim. I find it difficult. But that time he told me, see, you all women think no end of yourselves. If you all can't do it, don't do it. I started wondering to myself, is it right? We can't do it. I couldn't do it. I was a woman, I couldn't drive, I found it difficult. And traveling in a bus itself is an ordeal for a woman. I think most of you all would agree with me if you have traveled in city buses. It's an ordeal, it's a different ball game altogether. I can give a speech for 10-15 minutes. But that apart, I started asking myself, is he correct when he said that if you all women can't do it, why are you all doing it? You all are making it so difficult for us. Now it is so difficult for us to find a bride. We are not getting government jobs. Women have taken away our government jobs. And then you all want childcare leave, you all want maternity leave, you all don't want to stay up late. You all are saying we can't travel, we have this difficulty, that difficulty. Yes, we have difficulty. We have difficulty because we have history attached to us. Historically, we are caregivers. Historically, we were not somebody who were breadwinners, who could go outside. That convenience we didn't have. And because we didn't have this convenience, I believe that our kind, women, we are on a transition period. My great-grandmother was illiterate. My grandmother knew how to read and write and a fair bit of Portuguese. My mother was educated and working. I am highly educated and I'm on a better person. And I guess the generation after me should be all this without any difficulty. So we are in a transition period. And the only thing that I would want to tell that person who told me why you are working is that we are working because we deserve to work. We are working because we were able to give up that role of primary caregivers. It's not that we've completely given it up. We love it. We love our jobs. As mothers, we love our jobs. As daughters, we love our jobs as homemakers. You ask any woman here and they will say that that is my first love. Everything else comes later. That is instinctive for a woman. But we also can do this. Just that since we are in a transitioning period, be patient with us, give us a compatible environment, give us an environment where we can thrive, where we can perform all our roles beautifully, and I'm sure we will make all of you proud. So with this speech, I thank you. I thank all of you for giving me a patient time. Happy Women's Day.
Thank you, Madam Pooja, for your inspiring stories. Today we take the honor to felicitate eminent personalities amongst us. The ones whose actions has created a legacy that inspired others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more. Our first felicitation would be of Madam Livia Lobo-Santesa. I now request Advocate Suzanne Linares to introduce our first felicitation.
Srimati Livia Lobo-Santesa is the first lady advocate to practice in the courts in Goa. She was also a social worker and activist in women-related issues. She was educated in Bombay. During her student days, she was secretary of the Goan Youth League, working for the freedom of Goa. During the World War II, she worked as an Indian-Italian translator in the Prisoners of War British establishment for Italian prisoners in Bombay. In college, she was also an active nationalist, worker of radical humanist groups, followers of M.N. Roy. She graduated from Siddharth College, Bombay. She completed law from Government Law College, Bombay, while working for the All India Radio. After getting her LLB degree, she resigned from her job and she joined the underground movement for Goa's liberation. Advocate Livia Lobo Sardesai was a freedom fighter in charge of the Voice of Freedom, an underground radio station broadcasting to listeners in Goa from 1955 to 1961, along with her husband, Sri Vaman Sardesai, and for a short while with Niklav Menezes. The last broadcast of her radio was the announcement of Goa's liberation on 19th of December 1961 from an airplane in the skies to synchronize with the hoisting of the tricolour and lowering of the Portuguese flag in Goa. Upon liberation of Goa, she did licensed work for the Ministry of External Affairs connected with the repatriation of Portuguese troops in Goa, from Goa. She was appointed the first Director of Tourism of Free Goa. She led government service to start legal practice, and she was the first lady advocate to practice in Goa. She was the founder, promoter of the first and only women's cooperative bank in Goa at Panaji. She was also chairman of the bank for 10 years. The bank is still running by women and women directors. She was a lecturer in constitutional law in the Madhavrao Salgaonkar College of Law for 2 years. Thereafter, she was vice president of the Goa Daman and Diu Advocates Association, Panaji, from the year 1974 to 1978. She has travelled extensively all over the world. In 1983, she was a member of the Indian delegation to the World Peace Conference held in Moscow. In 1985, she was a member of the Indian delegation to the NGO Forum and participated on behalf of the AIWC at the first United Nations Decade Conference held in Nairobi in 1985. She was founder president of the AIWC Jubilee College of Home Sciences, Goa. The college was affiliated to the Goa University. She has held prestigious positions, including the president of the All India Women's Conference, Goa branch. She was also a member of various state and central committee. She was a member of the state and central various committees. Advocate Livia Lobo Sardesai was born on 25th of May 1924. She is short of 2 months to complete a century. Please welcome.
Thank you, Madam Susan. I now request our chief guest, Honorable Minister of Law Minister of the State of Goa, Shri Alexi Guerra, Honorable Chief Justice Valmiki Menezes, President of the Goa High Court Bar Association, Koi Pereira sir, a cultural committee chairman of the Bar Association, Sudhir Sarkar sir, President of the Franchise Lawyers Forum, Advocate Chokim Gulino, Member Secretary of the Goa State Legal Services, Madam Vijaya Amrit, to please come up to felicitate our esteemed guest. Requesting you all to rise up and give a round of applause to our dynamic Livia Lobo Sardesai Madam. I next request Dr. Nandita D'Souza, our next SSD, to come up on the stage. request Dr. Pooja Kaulekar, Madam, to please accept our felicitation. I request the President of Goa High Court Bar Council to be on this. Bar Association. Last but not the least, our felicitate for the day is Advocate Swati Kamwar, pro bono lawyer. She's an advocate associated with Goa State Legal Services Authority. I request the Chief Guest to come down. Thank you. Thank you all.
No, it's with you. It's with me. She's a
Thank you and congratulations to you all. Requesting all of you to please take your seats. I now request Honorable Mr. Justice Valmiki sir to address the gathering.
Even the Prime Minister, Alice Keira, all the other dignitaries present here, Justice Karuti, unfortunately had to leave. My friends, actually I'm standing here as a proxy of Justice Garote because he was actually going to address you, being a visiting judge on this very happy occasion. But nevertheless, I'll do my best to fill issues. Now, at the outset, I need to thank all the grand ladies that we felicitated today, Dr. Nandita, Swati and Pooja. Now, the International Women's Day actually commemorates an incident that took place about 109 years ago, somewhere in 1909, when about 15,000 women gathered in New York over a century ago, basically to fight for their rights. In those days, women didn't have any right to vote. They didn't have any equality in terms of their wages. They didn't even have the equal opportunity to jobs in the United States, let alone other parts of the world. It is that protest that many years later led the United Nations somewhere in 1975 to recognize this day and celebrate this day as International Women's Day. Of course, somewhere around 1996, the United Nations decided to have a theme every year for International Women's Day. I'll come to the theme for this year's International Women's Day a little later. Now, from those days, we all know about the various movements that women have had to sort of fight their way through the gender bias, the fear that men even have had of allowing women to have their place in society. we've seen feminism develop as a movement. There were various waves of these feminist movements, 4 or 5 of them. Initially, the first movement was somewhere at the turn of the previous century, where they fought for universal suffrage, the right to property, the right to inheritance, the right to vote. I mean, these are very basic rights which we just take for granted nowadays. But there was not even legislation in place in those days to give them a sense of equality. It looks like we moved a long way since then, but then came the second and third wave, and somewhere in the 60s there was a feminist wave fighting for the liberation of women. Now, it sounded like something negative to a lot of people, this women's lib movement. But what this movement actually fought for was a further sense of equality, where women fought for anti-discrimination laws and a right to their own sexuality. I think these were important rights because they gave women all over the world, or they brought to the fore the recognition to a woman having a right to sort of have a control over her own body, have a right to inheritance, a right to not be discriminated against. And this continued till lately. We've even seen the fight for rights such as protests against rape, protests against violence against women. These are the later movements which you see, the Me Too movement, which has gained popularity somewhere in the 90s. Now, all these movements that we see, and even closer to home, you have struggle of women against the patriarchal societies, the fact that our laws have a gender bias. We find a lot of laws have a gender bias in terms of who would get custody, how would guardianship be decided by courts. They sort of weighed against women. And despite all this, we still don't have legislations in place to bring a complete gender equality. We don't even have a uniform civil code that, let alone brings an equality in terms of across religions or social denominations. It does not even bring equality at the level of gender, because you have inheritance rights still, even today, different where women are concerned. They are definitely more biased in favor of the male gender. Now, having touched this aspect of the requirement for more gender-neutral laws, if I mean just this is just aside. If you see behind every successful woman, they say, is a man who tried to stop her. Yes, I know it sounds cynical, but quite true. And when we talk of the legal profession especially, and this is criticism of the legal profession, and I'm very indulgent. The reality of the legal profession today, and in fact much worse than many other professions. Even medicine as a profession has opened up. You find women surgeons, you find an almost equal opportunity for women. The choice is there. But law as a profession, sad to say, sees a huge gender bias. And I think unless we admit this position, we are not going to move from the state of things as they stand today. So my request to the male counterparts in this profession, when I say the profession, it's not, it cuts across even amongst judges. You see the number of appointees amongst judges. Goa is, in that sense, sort of a shining light, where our judiciary has a large number of women. But if you look at the proportion elsewhere in the country, whether at the higher judiciary, at the High Court, at Supreme Court, and if you look at the number of appointments at the district level, I mean the proportion is very abysmal. There's something wrong, and I think there's something wrong in a great sense because of us men. We really need to move out of the way and support some kind of a movement where we see more women come up in this profession especially. I know this might sound very dark, but I just want to place the reality as I see it before all of you, and this is the only way I think, by acknowledging what has happened in the past, we can move forward. Now, in conclusion, there's a little quote I'd like to give you from one of my most favorite writers, Ayn Rand. As you know, she was this Iron Woman through the 50s, great novels. I think they changed a lot of our lives and sort of championed objectivism. And I think she sums up what most women, and I especially refer to what Pooja said. She says in Atlas Shrugged, the book Atlas Shrugged, it is not death that we wish to avoid, but life that we wish to live. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We can actually relate to the each day difficulty we women suffer. I would not say suffer, but the struggle to sustain or to survive in this profession. We have to be very multitasking. Yes. Now we move on to our chief guest, Honorable Law Minister for the State of Goa, Shri Alex Sequeira, sir, to address the gathering.
Justice Valmiki Menezes, my friend and President of the Goa High Court Bar Association, Advocate Zilman Goel Pereira, Advocate Madam Vijay Amre, Advocate Joachim, Senior Counsels, Advocates, ladies and gentlemen. If I may apologize, I've forgotten Advocate Libya Lobo Sardesai, Dr. Nandita D'Souza, Advocate Swati, and Dr. Kaulikar. We have gathered here today to celebrate International Women's Day. However, tradition demands that on such an occasion I say a few words. I will endeavor to undertake this task, though I know it is not an easy one, especially when I am in the midst of eminent persons and personalities like you all. Therefore, should I slip here and there, my request, please bear up with me. We have gathered here to celebrate International Women's Day. It's a time to reflect on the progress made towards gender equality and to honor the incredible contributions of women around the globe. This day serves as a reminder on the ongoing fight for women's rights and the need to continue advocating for gender equality in all aspects of society. Amidst the celebrations, it's important to acknowledge the diverse experiences of women worldwide, recognizing both their triumphs and the challenges they still face. International Women's Day is not just a day of celebration, but also a call to action, urging everyone to work towards a more inclusive and equitable world for all. On International Women's Day, we have come together to honor the achievements of women everywhere, to amplify their voices, and to renew our commitment to gender equality. Together, we can create a world where every woman and girl has the opportunity to reach her full potential. Today we honor the trailblazing women who have shattered barriers, defied expectations, and paved the way for future generations. Each year, we look at the United Nations Women's Day theme, hoping to find much needed inspiration. This year it is Invest in Women, Accelerate Progress. Many big words with impressive agendas, many a times over the years, sometimes sound a little tiring too. My strong sentiment comes from the fact that over the years there have been huge strides in building diverse and inclusive workplaces within corporations in India. For instance, with 23.4% of boards comprising of at least 3 women members, the female representation in the Indian boardrooms is higher than the global and Asian averages. As of March 2023, 19.5% women were board directors in National Stock Exchange listed companies. According to Grant Thornton's International Business Report titled Women in Business 2023, The Push for Parity, India has 36% women in the senior management positions in mid-market businesses, which is 4% higher than the global count. At the same time, according to the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap Report 2022, the share of women in legislatures, senior officials, and managers in India increased from 14.6% to 17.6%, and the share of women as professionals and technical workers grew from 29.2% to 32.9%. Today, the organizational challenge is how to go beyond Women's Day to every day. Diversity should not be a one-time special push, and organizations must be evolved enough to see the merits of having a diverse workforce. I believe building a diverse culture, inclusive perspective, is a journey that has to cross many junctions and intersections. Organizations should not solely be accountable for diversity and inclusion. Women should also equally participate in driving this change. They need to apply for jobs, not only when they are 100% skilled, but if they have the competence and the organization is willing to invest in them. Each woman would therefore need to own her career, and it is for them to ask, raise hands, and use the company policies, benefits as needed to further this approach. When we focus on why for organizations and why for women, the how of implementation becomes a natural corollary. Going beyond the fields of diversity and gender, it is time for all stakeholders to converge there. May we continue to strive for progress and equality for all. Whilst I conclude, may I wish all the remarkable women out there, may you always know your worth, stand tall in your power, and never settle for anything less than you deserve. Happy International Day.
Thank you, sir. We will cherish your words of wisdom and look forward to applying them in our personal and professional life. We now have a dance performance on Women's Anthem by Vaishnavi Joshi and Deepali Puri.
घातल्याचे बी जोक मार घातल्यार ओ अशें म्हणून ओके आयज आंतरराष्ट्रीय बायलां दीस पण तशें पळोवपाक गेल्यार खंयचो दीस आमचो नासता एवरी डे इज आवर डे रायट क्वीन्स डोंट नीड स्पेशल डे बट देयर इज अ बट men needs to be reminded who is the real boss so is the day अशें म्हणटात की 3 हट्टा मुखार कोणाचें कांय चलना राजहट्ट बालहट्ट आनी स्त्री हट्ट सो बायलेन जर हट्ट केलो जाल्यार घोवाक आयकोवचेंच पडटा हो आमचो सुपर पॉवर. मानतात तुम्ही? आणि काय सुपर पॉवर्स असतात ते सांगता. वी कॅन कन्वर्ट एनी कॉम्प्लिमेंट इनटू एन आर्ग्युमेंट. ह्या ड्रेसात तू बरें दिसता म्हळ्यार हरशें हांव बरें दिसना. आगो तशें न्ही, पण ह्या ड्रेसातच न्हय तर साद्या ड्रेसात सुद्धा तू बरें दिसता. वा रे वा, पयशे साल्वार करपाची बेस्ट आयडिया. म्हणजे सादे जे कपडे आसा तेच घाल, स्पेशल कपडे आनी हाडपाचे ना. कसलो चामूट घोव मेळ्ळा रे म्हाका. एक्सपिरियन्स केला? हांसात तरी. पण म्हाका सांगचें पडटा हांसात हांसात म्हणून. आनीक एक सुपर पॉवर म्हणजे कपड्याच्या दुकानात वचून ह्या कलराचो दुसरो पॅटर्न दाखय, ह्या पॅटर्नात दुसरो कलर दाखय अशें म्हणून रेकावयले सगळे कपडे सकयल हाडूनय शी बाबा ताचे कडेन एकूय बरें कलेक्शन ना म्हणून कांयच घेनासतना भायर सरपाचो सुपर पॉवर कोणा कडेन आसा? ऑफकोर्स आमचे कडेन. ओके. दुसरं म्हणजे सुपर पॉवर ऑफ ओव्हर थिंकिंग. बायलेचे 2 और गर्लफ्रेंडाचे 2 कॉल मिस जाले. आय नो वेर यू आर. आय नो तुका हांव आतां नाका. आय नो तुका तें मेळ्ळा. बी हॅपी विथ हर. आय एम गोईंग. बाय बाय. ब्ला 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 ब्ला. ब्लॉक. बाबडो खरेंच कामात बिझी आसता. पण हांगा कितें चल्ला? संशय कल्लोळ. जेलसी हो जो प्रकार आसा न्ही तो आमच्या मध्ये कूट कूट के भरला. अगो पळय ताजे केस काय बरे स्मूथ आनी लांब आसात न्हय. स्मूथनिंग केला ताणें. ताजे खातीर पार्लरार वचून कचकशीत पयशे पडचे पडटात. ताजो घोव दिता ताका. तूं दिता म्हाका? हांवूय वता मालेच्यान पार्लराक. काड पयशे काड भायर. बाबरे खंयचे ते कॉम्प्लिमेंट दिले म्हणल्या भशेन जाले. कित्याक ते कोणाचे तरी केस बरे म्हणल्या भशेन जाले आसतले. तुमकां सांगता आमची जीण तशी सोपी ना. आमकां भरपूर खावपाक जाय, सगळें खावपाक जाय, पूण आमचें वजन वाडपाक जायना. आमकां नवे कपडे घेवपाक जाय, पूण आसात ते कपडे दवरपाक कपाटार आमचे कडेन जागो ना. आमकां कसो तरीच होतय. कितें जाता तें कळना. आणि वयल्यान ब्रह्मदेव सुद्धा जर आयलो न्ही जाल्यार ताजे कडेन सुद्धा आमच्या ह्या कसो तरीच होतय हाजो उपाय ताजे कडेन नासतलो. हीच आमची बायलांची जात. दादल्यांक फकाणां मारपाक हक्काची. पूण खरेंच सांगता आमचे शिवाय दादल्यांचे कांयच शिजना. एंड वेन आय से शिजना, लिटरली शिजना. कारण बायल जर 2 दीस कुळारा गेली जाल्यार गॅसाचेर च्या सुद्धा शिजोवपाक तांकां चडशे जाणांक जमना. आपूण दुसऱ्या बायलां कडेन हांसत खेळत उलयतलो, पण आपल्या बायलेन जर दुसऱ्याक स्मायल सुद्धा दिली न्ही ती ताज्यान सोंसना. आता तुम्ही म्हणटाले की हे बायलांची फकाणां मारता मारता दादल्यांचेर कित्याक घसरले? तो आमचो जन्मसिद्ध हक्क. लायफान खूब कितें गोश्टी चुकतात. आमी प्रत्येक फावट देवाक ब्लेम करपाक शकनात. कोण तरी मनीस जाय आसता आनी त्याच खातीर आमी लग्न जातात. सगळे खापर फोडपा खातीर. थँक्यू.
Thank you, Akshita. I now request Madam Vijaya Amre, Member Secretary of Goa State Legal Services, to propose the vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Gratitude is considered as one of the foremost human emotions. It is indeed a great honor and privilege for me to propose vote of thanks on behalf of Goa State Legal Services Authority, Goa High Court Bar Association and Pending Lawyers Forum to all the distinguished dignitaries present here for having spared their valuable time to participate in this program. we are deeply grateful to our Chief Guest, Shri Alex Siqueira, Honorable Minister Law and Judiciary, for accepting our invitation and for being with us today, right from 4:30 p.m. onwards. Thank you sir very much. I thank your Lordship, Honorable Shri Justice A.G. Garote, my Lord Honorable Shri Justice Shri Valmiki Menezes, for gracing this occasion and extending support for celebrating this event. I sincerely thank all the keynote speakers for giving us such a wonderful and valuable information. I thank all the members and all advocates, senior advocates, and all the participants present here for making this program a great success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam. As we come to an end of this program, I would request Advocate Prachi to recite a poem on women. This is the last item for the day.
Thank you so much. This is a poem by Helen. The title of the poem is We Are Women, shared by a colleague of mine. We are women. We are love, we are care, we are nurture. We are encouragement, we are strength, and we are kindness. We are inclusive, captivating, patient, and able. We are the wiping away of tears from our own unfulfilled yearnings of motherhood as we look after and parent the offsprings of others. We are capable of not wanting our own children, but still loving children and spending time with them in our enjoyment and care. We have the capacity to love beyond surnames, bond beyond family ties, join beyond blood bonds, unite beyond differences. We are time givers, hug givers, love givers, care givers, and advice givers. We are smile with strength through our sorrows, showing our scars. These war wounds are our beautiful marks. We are amazing beings of achievement and skills. Because of us, the world is evolving still. We are all those things and a whole lot more. We are women. Thank you.
Thank you, Prachi. I thank each one of you for making this evening a wonderful one. Let us rise for the national anthem.
जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल गंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाए तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे